Hey, hey, welcome back to MMEG 369 podcast. I'm Spike. I am your podcast host, or just a guy who's talking about music, magic, energy, and God. So, in the previous podcast episodes, we've talked quite a bit in regards to energy and how it parlays to music, how it parlays to magic, and the energy itself, what it does, and how you project this with intent, what you bring reality to yourself, and how you create your reality around. So, I want to reiterate the importance of understanding the power that you have within yourself. Now, let's go back to the last of MMEG, God. As you all know, in the major religion, 35 religions here on the planet, we have a common so-called thread that ties into that God is all creator, almighty, all-knowing, all-powerful. And we are made in the image of God to serve God. So with that is being the cornerstone of major religions, there's got to be some evidence that ties this into it. And I've done a lot of research in regards to this, and I've came up with a lot of different directions and different answers. So first and foremost, you're going to have to make a decision for you. When you do your search, when you do your homework, when you start to refine the knowledge of who God is to you, it is important to understand. It is not to your best interest to take someone else's word in only one opinion to formulate how you, as an individual, will take that paradigm and use that as your so-called barometer or the catalyst of your intent to create your reality. Now think about this. If someone has told you one way to do something and you take that one way and you keep on running into dead ends, run into a so-called repetition of nowhere, going around in circles, chasing your own tail. Now, are you getting into those type of realities? Are you part of that which you are disappointed or stressed out or angry or whatever it may be that is not satisfying of where you are going with your intent? Then you need to take maybe some time out and reevaluate what's all going on. What is the truth? What is the things you are missing from it? What is God to you? So there's a couple of things that we will talk about in regards to what is God in my experience and information and knowledge that I've gathered through these experiences, and how do I come to fruition of my own paradigm and how I am now making it applicable moment to moment, minute to minute, day to day, every moment of being and connecting with the source. Now, I have often considered God as the mighty universe. The mighty universe is the true essence of expansion, creation, all knowing. So I kind of attach God to the universe because it is the universe that creates us. It is the universe that is measurable in sense of where it comes down to matter. And from that matter, in the energy that projects through variety of combinations, creates reality, creates biologicals, creates artificial intelligence, creates magnetism, creates on and on and on. These are all things that we currently have identified it. We also have currently recognized and measured it. And we use some of these information to our advantage, but at the same time, let's be real here. There's a lot of things that we do that we think we're doing it right that we may not be doing it to its optimal possibility, capability. Okay? Let's just look at evolution of basketball. If we look at basketball in the 1950s and we look at Bob Cousy dribbling right, and Bob Cousy, mind you, was a premier point guard. If you take someone in today's game, in the NBA 2020, you can go 1 to 12 to the end of the bench, and that person most likely have better handle than the premier Bob Cousy in 1950s. Now, this is not a slam on Bob Cousy and what he brought to the table. This is about evolution and understanding and refinement of something that was at one time thought being the standard, which now has been reinvented many times. And if you look at our planet, you look at our consumer goods, if you look at our technology, our everyday application of using technology, you'll see that we've come a long ways, refined many different levels to achieve where we're at, and we're still in refinement. And as a matter of fact, there's now information abundantly available. So the only reason that you stayed uninformed is by choice. And your choice may be that you'd rather go outside and ride your motorcycle, drive your boat, go fishing, shoot a deer, whatever you choose to do, to take up your time that you're not working to make money. So why I bring that up is because it is most important in our consciousness of enlightenment, in growth, in development, or refinement of self, to really understand where we're putting priority, where we are putting our schedules, our agendas, in what order, and how much effort are we putting into refinement of self, and where is the pecking order. Some people refine themselves with religion, and they religiously, no pun intended, attend church Wednesdays and Sundays, sometimes even Saturdays, sometimes special events, Bible schools on summers. And there's nothing that points out saying, well, this is wrong or this is right. It is just another way for individuals to create opportunities to connect, to refine self. Now, some people go to therapy to refine self. Some people meditate to refine self. Some people read. So there's many different ways to refine self, but it is utmost important. If you are unhappy, if you have been listening to my podcast and you've reached a point of saying, what is all this about? But he's keep on talking. Spike is saying things about self-awareness, self-enlightenment, everything's about self, but yet not about the ego. So what is the big difference? And a common point, ego drives possession. So that's the easiest way to kind of understand that. Is it ego driven or is it self-refinement? Now, let's take a point of view of what is ego driven self. If I were to have a measurable result against an opponent, such as competition, such as something that is rewarded with accolades, something that's rewarded or monetized and driven by money. These are things that's attached that will drive you in within yourself from a superego point of view. And is it wrong to drive your inner self and your self-awareness with superego? And that answer is both yes and no. The key thing about superego versus self-awareness and enlightenment is, number one, enlightenment has no competition and it has no finite end results. So if you understand that concept right off the bat, that in that particular task that you are achieving, it's refinement with no end, chances are that is working within self-awareness. If you are saying things that, hey, I'm going to be number one by the end of the week, chances are that paradigm in that parameter that was set was for the superego. Now, what is so bad about having a superego is that it creates an illusion that we're not together, we're not connected at all. I'm different than you, I'm an individual. While that is true to some respect, the consciousness is not an individual. And this is the part that the so-called teachings or history or so-called traditions, knowledge that's conveyed with different agendas, are teaching. Individualism, and to the point that the individualism is to be reflected in our third density or third dimension existence. And what that really entails to is a lot of things that we're all part of. You know, the consumer goods, the fashion, the trends, the so-called things that brings prestige and worthiness. You know, I've been in real estate business. I used to sell new homes for builders. And one of the things that I've learned through many sales programs, but the ones in real estate selling new homes, was identify the buyer's hot buttons. There are spots that within themselves that would trigger the buying emotion. And one of the key was prestige. And basically, is somebody buying to show off their worth? If someone buying and upgrading their countertop so they can be the envy of the neighborhood or the community. These are things that is, of course, propaganda throughout media, throughout our life, throughout traditions. You know, make more money, be more successful. You can provide for your children. You can provide for your family. You can buy whatever you want. And you notice everything I just said is really about everything that's within the self driving with a finite result. And you really have to, I believe, to take a step back. If you're unhappy, and I know I was at one time where I was making virtually everything that I could attach to, not only monies, but, career, romance, the self-worth, how I felt great about being in control, how I was high in competition, how I was in a gym always training so I looked great. All these things left me still somewhat empty. How could I be empty if I have money, I have nice car, living in a Hollywood Hill, looking like a bodybuilder in competition level, and ladies in waiting? And yet I felt that I wasn't achieving what I wanted as results. So I started to research even deeper at that point. And this is during the time, of course, I was delving in the negatives and the black arts, and that energy was fueling very, very strongly. So I got all those things that I wanted. I wanted on the surface. And yet by the time I got it, I was extremely, I would say disappointed, to say the least, but I was unsatisfied. I was empty. I couldn't figure out, how could I be fulfilled? How could I have fulfillment? How could I be so-called in love with what I was being in? And on top of that, how I was loving myself, the self-awareness aspect. And I wasn't anywhere near it, So this part about connection versus individualism goes back to the concept of who is God. And if God is all over in our teachings as being superior than human beings, worshipped as deity, it comes in many forms, and at the same time, does it serve us? in well, it shouldn't, because it flat out tells you in major religions that God created you in their image and you were to serve them. Okay, so there's a lot of history that, of course, now is available. Zachariah Sitchin, in his interpretation of the Sumerian tablets, actually is the oldest writing that we have that talks about this topic. I encourage everybody to go research this. And of course, Sumeria is modern day Iraq. Does it surprise anybody that we, United States, have so much invested in that part of the world? And yet we don't really know anything about it except for supposedly they're all terrorists, or supposedly they're all fanatics within their God. And supposedly they only want one world vision and they want to kill everybody else. And supposedly they have no respect for females. Supposedly they are only, this antagonistic race of people that live over in the Middle East. I've met a lot of people on this planet. I know there's several million Muslims that's living on West China. Nobody ever slams West China. So what is actually going on here in reality, in the name of God? And what's going on over in modern day Iraq that dates back all the way to Sumerian? That is the type of knowledge that they don't teach in school, but it's available now because we have this wonderful technology that is called the internet that allows you to have abundant amount of information, whether it's be truth or lies. That's up to how much you study and figure it out. The fact is, for the last, 200 years, 250 years, the government and its media basically fueled us in our knowledge, in the school system fueled our knowledge. And unless you went on your own trek and higher learnings or adventures and experiences, that is pretty much your paradigm on regards to development. So I challenge everyone to change that cycle, to change that repetition, to change that tradition, and start to experience, learn, acquire knowledge of your own. Start to really understand what are discussions out there. Now, the energy of the mighty universe comes down and creates the abundance of information because it's all knowing. It's not going to window dress what is going on because it has no agenda. It has no purpose to steer you. The only purpose it has as the mighty consciousness, the mighty universe, and God is constant expansion through process of duality. Now, that's pretty much simple. It's very much to our advantage as a human race to understand that we need to take time out and connect and understand from our conscious and subconscious level how they work seamlessly. And then the consciousness itself, how does that work in regards to in tune with our physical being? With that physical being that is existing here, can we be enlightened to the point where we are connected back to the source of the almighty universe that is all-knowing, all-expanding? And the answer is yes, because teachings are there. Teachings has been there for thousands of years. However, they don't teach this in so-called school systems. They don't teach this as a requirement for human beings. I've always questioned, why do we live in a world of violence? Why do we live in a world of poverty or world of competition, world of, negativity, stress? There's so much of these things that's on a constant daily so-called reality for so many people. And yet nobody seeks the way to get out of that cycle or change the reality of that paradigm. And I will say this. I think everybody wants to get out of it. Only a few has the opportunity and recognized it, or has assistance and had the opportunity and took advantage of it, I definitely was. I had a great friend who steered me into a workshop that changed my life in Santa Monica in 1993. And I literally consider that my true birthday. Once I came out of that seminar, that workshop that consists of 3 days intensive of breaking down what I thought was great paradigm and reality, it changed me. It awakened the true self within. So I challenge you today, all of you, Google and start reading about God, but then start reading about consciousness. From the God and consciousness equation, start to read about who we are, where we came from, how long we've been here, and why are we here. God bless you all. I love you. I will see you